Welcome back to another episode, everyone. Today's episode was inspired by the following quote, which I've paraphrased here. Without routine or structure, you'll drift through life doing things on a whim or how you feel in the moment. With this approach, things happen to you, decisions are made for you, and outcomes are less favorable. After a long enough time, you'll notice yourself in a situation that you don't want to be in, highly stressed or unsatisfied with the work you do, with health concerns, low energy, crippling anxiety or doubt, unconfident in your decision, and overall untrusting in yourself. This is because you don't have a plan or a system, one that works for you when you're at your best and at your worst. A system that guards against decision-making fatigue, against social pressures, and against biological drivers and emotions that make decisions for you. A system that sees you live deliberately, not unconsciously. This struck an insane chord with me because it delves into the immutable fact that unless we take action, we are the ones in charge of our own lives, then life will just happen for us. And that's a problem because life has this uncanny way of just pulling you in whatever direction you let it. So we need to be able to put our foot down and make these decisions for ourselves, for our own good. Now, I want to delve into a little bit about the importance of routine and structure. And this just stems from the natural human tendency towards entropy or disorder. This is a natural phenomenon exhibited everywhere. Everything just wants to get to a state of low energy. And that will happen naturally if you allow it. A lack of structure, though, increases stress. And in fact, there have been plenty of studies, especially conducted by the American Psychological Association, that have linked routine to significantly reduced levels of stress because it helps you manage uncertainty and changes more effectively. The next thing that I'd like to highlight is this concept of just living on a whim, basically, this laissez-faire mentality. And this has exhibited severe long-term consequences in people. This includes chronic stress, dissatisfaction with your work, like I mentioned. It could lead to possible health issues due to this chronic stress. And of course, it leads to a lack of trust in yourself and your ability to make decisions and take charge in your life. So it leaves you in this lowered state. And this has a huge issue, as we're currently seeing out in the world. There is a huge statistical rise in mental health issues in societies that prioritize high degrees of freedom, but without a corresponding level of responsibility and self-discipline. It's an almost paradoxical shift where the more freedom we're being given, the less we're feeling certain with ourselves because there is no sense of direction. There's no sense of what we should be doing or should not be doing. And that's why we have to take it upon ourselves to find those things out. We have to determine for ourselves what the best decisions are to make and then to go and make them. One of the big problems is a concept known as decision fatigue. So this is where the quality of our decisions deteriorates when we have to make a large number of decisions. That's why if you've ever read biographies or watched any content regarding, let's say, high-level or high-performing CEOs or anything, they typically have a very routine structure, including usually a very fixed breakfast. They know exactly what they're going to have. They have a fixed wardrobe that they don't really deviate from, so that way it removes the decision fatigue. They don't have to expend the energy to think of what they're going to eat, what they're going to wear, what they're going to, I don't know, anything like that. In fact, there have been numerous studies published by psychologist Roy F. Baumeister who highlighted that making numerous small decisions can drain the energy needed to make the more significant decisions, which overall led to poorer life choices. And this is something that we need to be able to manage and monitor. Otherwise, we can find ourselves in situations that we really do not want to find ourselves in. Now, of course, it's also relevant to discuss the impact of social pressures and, of course, our biological drivers. Now, of course, we're all familiar with social pressures, the most common of which being peer pressure, where friends or family or colleagues or whatnot try and influence the decision that you make just given their own experience. But there are further and broader impacts of these pressures, including just the current society that you're living in. A typical Western society primarily focuses on material goods or materialism in general, and it's a very shallow way of life. It is something that that, if is not kept in measure, will truly dictate the way that we guide our life. It dictates our greater goals in life, which in the end, on your deathbed, really is something that has led to a lot of regret and missed opportunities. People that have felt that they couldn't be doing something, or they should have dressed a certain way, or they should have bought something, or they should have lived their lives in a way that almost showed off to other people. And that is an incredibly superficial way to go through life. Then, on the other hand, we can look at biological drivers or biological instincts, which can very often lead us to seek out short-term gratification instead of delayed long-term satisfaction. And this is just a very innate biological thing. Every animal, every creature, just thermodynamically, we want to find the path of least resistance. And that is something that takes a lot of mindful will to go against, given that we're looking for that greater satisfaction down the line. So one of the best ways to fight against this is to make a personalized system that accounts for your own individual strengths, your weaknesses, and your overall life goals. A system like this can help guard against the pitfalls of unplanned living or decision fatigue or the social or biological pressures, because it reinforces you, it gives you the foundation to make those decisions off regardless of your current physical and mental state. And one of the best ways to do this is to break down what this effective system means. To me, personally, it means deliberately living. It means goal setting on a consistent basis. It means prioritizing the things that matter to me for both my short-term and my long-term goals. It includes a daily routine which I try not to deviate from, which gives me the reinforcement and the confidence in knowing that I'm able to handle certain tasks. And of course, I take time to reflect on this journey, because it is not a linear process. But if you can look back and reflect over the course of a year and see that more often than not, you are sticking to those things that you've set to yourself, then you get into the point where you are starting to identify as one of those people that has this plan, that has this ability to power through any situation, regardless of your state, because you've proved it to yourself. You can see that you are making the decisions that you know that you should be making. Now, of course, you don't need to go on this alone. There are plenty management apps, habit trackers. Of course, you can also practice meditation, and my favorite of all to keep track of this is journaling. I really do think that it's quite a surreal experience going back a year ago and reading your journal entries to see how far you've come, to see all the progress that you've made, to see when you were in the middle of the lowest of the lows and you are able to make your way out of it and reflect on those moments and see what you learned and how you grew. For those that don't have this system in place, the way that I recommend you start is just by starting with small habits that build over time, that build momentum. Because momentum is everything. Momentum builds all of the motivation and the foundation for every life change that you're going to be able to make. So even if that means just putting your freaking shoes on and going for a 2-minute walk every day, then do it. If you're trying to get your finances in order, make sure to set aside 2 minutes every day to just note down a couple purchases that you made, just so you can keep track of things. Or if it's a diet, make sure that you're taking a few minutes every day to track your calories. It doesn't matter. It's the point is that you're starting something which is objectively foreign to you, which is different to you. And by doing them, even for that one time, for those 2 minutes, or that one push-up, or that one walk around the block, that's all it takes, because that builds momentum. You are proving to yourself that you can do it. And the second you've taken the first step, the second will come easier, and the third will come even easier. And then once that gets into a routine, that's it. That's all you need to do. You just need to trudge through it for the first little while until it becomes an ingrained, innate part of you. And you'd be surprised how fast that can happen. Now, of course, you also want to be flexible, because life does not always present the most perfect scenario, the most picturesque setting for being able to accomplish your goals. But you need to be adaptable and flexible. If you say that you're only going to go for a walk first thing in the morning, but then sometimes in the morning you wake up and you're just dead, you just can't get out of bed. That was myself this morning. I could not get myself to get up at 5 in the morning to go to the gym. I just couldn't. My body was telling me no. But that doesn't mean I'm going to skip my training. If anything, if my body still allows it, I'm just going to shift that later in the day. I will reorganize, because it's important to be flexible. So guys, overall, I hope that I can leave you with the following takeaway. Deliberate living is formed through structure, through routine, and through habits. When you are able to make the habits and dictate the decisions that you make, you can live a more conscious life. And I really hope that this is something that can help you. And I think it's something that everybody must pursue on their own journey of development and growth. So that's it, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning back in, and I'm very excited to see you all in the next episode. Peace.